Hey everybody, it's X, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing my first premiere draft of the Innistrad Midnight Hunt format. So here we have a pretty sweet looking rare, Angel Fire Ignition. It does tie you into two colors and ties you into a pretty aggressive deck, but the idea of playing a 2-mana 2/2 and then on turn 3 making it a 4/4 Vigilance Trample Lifelink Indestructible Haste for the turn and permanently a 4/4 is pretty sweet. So I'm going to try out the Angel Fire Ignition here. I almost said Angle Fire. I don't know why that always happens. My brain just likes to short circuit with some of these card names. But yeah, seems like a pretty sweet card, and nothing else in this pack looks particularly incredible. So yeah, seems like a decent first pick here if we can end up in red-white. Of course, taking a dual-colored card in the first pick is always a bit of a bummer, because then if something else becomes more open, you are going to have to toss it. But if you take a mono-colored card and blue ends up being super open, you could go, whatever color you picked plus blue. But here we can't really go red, white, and black and take Flesh Taker here, as powerful as that card could be. But I could still take Flesh Taker and then just make a decision between red, white, or white, black. I think this card is really, really good. Borrowed Time's also pretty sweet. 3 mana to exile a non-land permanent until it leaves the battlefield, and there's not a lot of enchantment removal in this set, to the point where people aren't really going to be main decking enchantment removal, so Borrowed Time, pretty much just a permanent 3 mana exile a non-land permanent. So I think it's between those two cards. Those are definitely the sweetest in my opinion. Flesh Taker just absolutely slaps in those sacrifice decks. Borrowed Time, just great removal in any white deck. I guess we'll take Borrowed Time because it's possible we can still we can play both these cards in the same deck, but Flesh Taker we really just can't. I don't think the mana fixing is good enough to play an aggressive 3-color deck. You can definitely splash in a third color if your deck is slower. But if we're trying to be somewhat aggressive, we don't really want to play around with 3 colors. So here we have Bereaved Survivor and Dauntless Avenger. Kind of an interesting card. Hasn't played out particularly well for me, but there's not much else going on in red and white here. We have like Tavern Ruffian, which can be a 4-mana 6/5 if you can set it to nighttime. To do that, you have to make sure somebody casts no spells during their turn, and then it will flip to night. And during the night, this card is just straight up 6/5. So, potentially kind of sweet. But it takes some work to get going. Very similar to Bereaved Survivor. Potentially kind of sweet, but takes some work to get going. And by the time you flip it, they'll often have a creature big enough to block. I don't know. We'll still go with Bereaved Survivor over the Tavern Ruffian, just not super high on that card here. Well, I think in the universe where we took Flesh Taker over Borrowed Time, we'd be very happy here, because Ghoulish Procession is the kind of card that goes really well into the white-black sacrifice deck, and it's probably the card I'm taking here. I think it just works really well in that sort of strategy. I guess we could take Gavany Silversmith still. We're not necessarily out of white-red here, and Silversmith is a great card for aggressive decks, so it is going to combo well with the Angel Fire Ignition. I think Procession's probably a little bit stronger in general, but it is off-color. Midnight Ambush in black as well in this pack still here. A decent removal spell. I guess it's only pick 4, so it's not that late. I think I'm going to take the Silversmith. Stick to our guns here, and I do love Surge Party Captain. This card just seems like a real good deal in general. If you are the kind of deck that's going to be attacking a lot, you get a cost reduction on this, and it can often be a 2 or 3 mana 2/2 that comes into play and draws a card, which is just a great deal. At 4 mana, it's kind of a bad deal, but even if it costs 3, that's when you're already happy, and anything cheaper than that, you're living the dream. So Search Party Captain, pretty sweet. That being said, with Angel Fire Ignition, to make the best use of this card, to get the most blowout plays, we want some good 2-drops, and Candlegrove Witch is probably the best 2-mana creature in white at common. So going to take the Candlegrove Witch here, just a 2-mana 2/2 early in the game, and once you have 3 creatures with different powers on the board, then it will be flying during your turn, during your combats, so Candlegrove Witch, pretty nice there, giving itself evasion once the board states get cluttered up. Kind of like Clarion Cathars here, it helps with Coven by having a 3-power creature and a 1-power creature all in one card. Also goes a little wide if we're trying to do that. Nothing all that sweet in this pack for any color, really. Duel for Dominance solid for green, Blood Thief solid for black, but pretty average pack at this point. We are getting late into the packs. Ooh, this is a little above average. Flame Channeler here. Happy to scoop that up. 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever a spell you control deals damage, you get to transform it, and transformed, it is a 3/3. Whenever a spell you control deals damage, you put a flame counter on it, and you can remove a flame counter on it to exile the top card of your library and have the ability to cast it this turn. So a 2 mana 2/2 with marginal upside is always good, and this one's really, if you get those red burn spells, the upside can go off. If you're in like red-blue with a bunch of burn spells, I guess it's probably not at its best in red-white here, but still looks decent to me. Worst case scenario with 2 mana 2/2 is the kind of card we want a lot of with Angel Fire Ignition. So now I guess it's just Candle Trap, but this card has not impressed me that much. It doesn't do anything to shut off abilities unless you have Coven. If you do have Coven, you get to spend 3 mana to exile whatever you enchant. Otherwise, it's just stopping a creature from attacking and dealing damage, so only really good on the defensive without Coven. I like Evolving Wilds here, but Festival Crasher with Angel Fire Ignition could be hilarious, but these tend to go pretty late. I feel like Lambhole Terriers tend to go pretty late as well, so I think we could just take an Evolving Wilds here. We should be able to fill out our 2-drops at later times. Neither of those are the kind of cards that go particularly highly. As you can see here, we just get the Festival Crasher now instead. And then a Celestus Sanctifier as we fill out some random creatures into the deck, just filler stuff. Nothing super exciting, nothing super worth noting. I guess this works well with Flashback and Disturb cards, milling yourself a few. But nothing all that exciting there. See what we open up in pack 2 here. Hopefully something pretty sweet. Look like your average red-white aggressive deck here so far. Alright, well, nothing sweet here for our colors, but there's definitely some sweet stuff for blue-green. So that's pretty cool, but we're incredibly far from those colors, so I don't think we can take any of those. We can take a Morning Patrol and a Morning Apparition, a 3 mana 2/3 Vigilance, bring it back as a 2/1 Flying Vigilance for 4. Definitely a good deal, having both of these cards slapped onto 1. Nice kind of 2-for-1 there. There's also Burn the Accursed, which is a removal spell I do like quite a bit. Instant speed, it exiles whatever you damage, and you get to damage your opponent's face a little bit, so it's good in aggro. I do like Burn the Accursed. I don't know if I like Burn the Accursed more than Morning Patrol, because this is just a great deal. There's also Evolving Wilds, but I'm not taking that over either of these two. Maybe we take Burn here. Yeah, I'm going to take Burn the Accursed because we have like Flame Channeler for a bit of a combo with it, and we definitely do want some removal. Ooh, here I'm happy to scoop up Cathartic Pyre. Am I happy to scoop up Cathartic Pyre? Because there's also Chaplain of Alms, another fantastic deal on the Disturb card. 1 mana for a 1/1 first strike with Ward 1, and then Disturb to bring it back from the graveyard as a 2/1 flying first strike that gives all of your creatures Ward 1 for 4 mana. Super good deal having 2 cards slapped onto 1, but I think again with Flame Channeler, I'm going to scoop up the very efficient removal first, and that might be better even without Flame Channeler. Just 2 mana instant speed, 3 to a creature Planeswalker, and if you don't need to kill anything, you can also just discard a couple cards, draw a couple cards. So Cathartic Pyre, nice flexible removal spell there for cheap. Here we have Falconwrath Perforator can get aggressive, dealing a damage to your opponent every time it attacks, whether or not it's blocked. It's also a 2/1 Lunarch Veteran, nice little Disturb card. Another Burn the Accursed. Kind of just like another Burn here. Really just going to scoop up every single Burn spell in this pack, I guess. So pick 4. Pax Betrayal, not interested. Tavern Ruffian, not super interested. They tend to go late, but nothing in white here, and Famished Foragers does not look that great. 4 mana 4/3. If when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, add 3 red. Then you can spend that 3 red to discard a card and draw a card. Seems okay, I guess, keeping you fueled later on. If you're drawing too many lands and flooding out in the aggressive decks, you can just discard them and draw more cards, but I almost think I just prefer the potential 6/5 of the Tavern Ruffian. Well, Voldaren Ambusher is great with some vampires, but I'm not sure we have many vampires. This will deal X damage when it comes to play, where X is the amount of vampires you control. If you've had an opponent lose life when you cast it. We have 0 vampires right now, but if we pick some up in red, that card will be great, and none of these white cards are awesome. Gavany Trapper being a solid way to shut off some blockers. Cathar's being fine on curve, and Veteran being an okay disturb card. I think Ambusher is the best card in this pack by far. Even though we don't have any vampires, I can scoop it up and now start considering vampires a little more highly than I would otherwise. Like a Voldaren Stinger here. This doesn't look great, but it helps trigger Coven, and it's got first strike when it's attacking with the ability to buff itself up, so it's really hard for your opponent to block it because you can always threaten that activation. Like if they have a 2-3 out and you attack with this, they're just never going to block with it. Because if you activate this, you just eat their creature without losing yours. So this is a really good way to get those cards that that trigger when your opponent loses life going, like the Voldaren Ambusher, where you want to damage your opponent before you cast that. So I could take another Voldaren Stinger here. They were like really the curve out aggro deck, or a Candle Trap. I have enough just like red burn kind of removal spells that I don't want Candle Trap here, again, because it's more of a defensive removal spell, and we have some offensive removal spells. So I'll take another Voldaren Stinger, see if that pans out. And now we get a red-white uncommon Sunrise Cavalier, exactly what we're looking for, just an aggressive red-white card. 1 red and a white for a 3/3 Trample Haste. Becomes day as it comes into play, and as day and night flip, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, so you can just make your field bigger and bigger as time progresses. Pretty nice card there. Scab Wrangler still in this pack. Pick 9. I think this is a great blue card for any deck that can make some decayed zombie tokens. It gives you a great way to use those. So Scab Wrangler is sweet here, but we're not going to go 3 colors, so we're just going to let somebody get a Scab Wrangler super late. I think I'm looking for more 2-drops, so we'll slap a little Pumpkin Smasher in here. Festival Crasher. Alright, a 2-drop Vampire, actually perfect with our Voldaren Ambusher. Get that in here now. 2 mana for 1 damage to something, draw a card, or 3 mana for 1 damage to something, draw a card. Doesn't seem great, but I'm definitely not playing Pax Betrayal. We're not trying to steal our opponent's creatures in this deck. We're trying to be nice and just defeat them the normal way with our creatures. Alright, well. Wow, this pack is absurd. Great cards for us. I would love a Flame Channel in here. We've got a lot of burn. I'd love another Cathartic Pyre in here. We have a Flame Channeler in here. And I'd love a Burn Down the House. This card is really, really nice because if your opponent is in the winning position, you can just deal 5 to every creature in each Planeswalker. And if your opponent is not in the winning position, if you have the better creatures on board, just get 3 1/1 Red Devils with haste that deal a damage to something when they die. So the fact that this is like a board wipe that has a backup plan if you don't want to board wipe is just great. So I'm going to take Burn Down the House here, but I think that both Flame Channeler and Cathartic Pyre are excellent as well. I would probably take Cathartic Pyre over the Flame Channeler, but I'll take Burn Down the House over either of them. And we're going to be living the dream with our Flame Channeler anytime we draw it, because we're going to have plenty of ways to deal damage with our instants and sorceries. Slap it in a Play with Fire now. And another Sunrise Cavalier. Seems great to get in this deck. Nice aggressive 3-drop. Don't mind if I do. This deck is looking potentially sweet now. We've got a lot of burn spells as removal. We have a big bomb board wipe. We have a big bomb, I don't know, pump spell, I guess. I definitely like the Candlegrove Witch here. Again, one of the best 2-drops in white. Super happy to play around with that. Gets flying later in the game, and at the start, just your 2-drop on curve to get in there. Could take a Gavany Trapper, but I think our 1-drop slot's going to be taken up by these Voldaren Stingers. I don't actually know if these are that good, but I want a high vampire count, or at least a few vampires, to go with our Ambusher. So I'm probably going to keep them in, so we'll take the Candlegrove Witch instead. Now, don't really like any of this. Don't really think the combat tricks will be super necessary if we just have cheap burn. Sunset Revelry is really more for controlling decks than aggressive decks, because aggressive decks, you're playing all your cards quickly and putting a lot of creatures on the board, so you're going to have more creatures than your opponent. You're going to have You could have more life than your opponent, so it's just like 2 mana draw a card if you're aggressive, which is just not good. So I'll just take the random creature there. Ooh, very happy to get a Gavany Silversmith here. Super good in aggressive decks, and we're certainly aggressive here. Get those +1/+1 counters onto our stuff. 21 creatures. We've got plenty of options in our creatures. We don't need to throw a little average Lunarch Veteran in the deck. We'll grab a draw spell, have access to that if we want to end up playing that. We did wheel the Flame Channeler, which is going to be great in this deck, but that means somebody took the Cathartic Pyre, which I'm mildly sad about, but that's definitely to be expected. Anybody in red is going to have a good time with a Cathartic Pyre. Another Voldaren Stinger or an Immolation. I like Immolation here. This is a sweet removal spell in an aggressive deck like this, because it can clear out your opponent's small creatures. If they have 2 or less toughness, you just spend your 1 red mana and get it out of the way. And later in the game, if this isn't clearing something out, you can just like slap it onto your 3/3 trample haste. Say I wait till turn 4, I play this, slap Immolation on it, slap them for 5. So Immolation can often work in 2 separate ways, which makes it a very flexible removal spell, which is nice. There's a lot of open green stuff here going late, but that's okay because we have more than enough cards to make a sweet deck in the colors we ended up in, so I'm not jealous or anything. All right, we get to cut 10 cards here too. Really get to zero in on our best cards, our best strategies. 22 cards. So we'll cut those 2 werewolves here and just get real low to the ground aggressive with more of just like humans and vampires here. I don't love the Sanctifiers, if I'm being honest. Especially in this deck, because we don't really have any flashback or disturb. We have like a tiny bit of flashback, but not enough to really justify wanting to mill ourselves a lot. And this is a 3/2, so it trades down. So we'll get rid of the Sanctifiers there. They don't seem that great. Bereaved Survivor could be awesome, because even if we don't flip this card until late in the game where our opponent has, 4/4s and 5/5s to block with, we could do like a chump attack with this thing and maybe get back a card with a good ability, like a Candlegrove Witch, because that'll be flying later in the game. I guess if they have like 2 4/4s to block with, then they can just kill both things. They can kill the Avenger and the creature it brings back, because it does bring the creature back from your graveyard tapped and attacking. So that's a downside. But I don't know, it has potential for sure. I'm not sure I want the draw spell here. I definitely want every removal spell that's in here, except for like Candle Trap. Get rid of the Candle Trap for sure. So how many creatures do we have now? We still have 18 creatures. We can definitely cut another 1 or 2. Probably cut a 2-drop here. We've got 8 right now, so cut a Festival Crasher, I suppose. Then 2 more cards to cut. I'm going to cut the other Festival Crasher as well, and then just cut like 1 Burn the Accursed. I definitely like Immolation, Play with Fire, Cathartic Pyre, Angel Fire Ignition, Borrowed Time, Burn Down the House. I think our 2 weakest non-creatures would be Burn the Accursed and Immolation, and these are both still great. And I don't want to go to 15 creatures when I'm aggressive. 17's like your average. I think we'll run it like this. Call it a day. I guess we could take out the ambushers, because statistically with 4 vampires in the deck, right? Yeah, statistically with 4 vampires in the deck, we're very often just doing 1 damage when this comes into play, because it'll just be the only vampire on the board, so do 1 damage to something. I guess we'll see how it plays out. Maybe the 1 damage will matter. But at that point, do we even cut the Stingers, because they just don't actually matter? Throw the Crushers back in? Or even put in just a little more late game power with the Tavern Ruffian, Tavern Smasher. Let's hedge our bets here a little, get a little bit of experience with both cards, see how they play out. We'll go 1 Stinger, 1 Ruffian. And if one of them just sucks, then we can cut another and throw another one in. And of course, if the ambusher just sucks when it only does 1 damage, we can cut that. But I expect there might be some 1 toughness stuff we can clear out. Probably not a lot. But maybe it like makes something trade up every now and then. We'll see. I'm probably just not living the ambusher dream here. To be honest. In which case we would go ambusher and stinger gone, crasher and ruffian in. You got what? We have 5 instants and sorceries, so crasher will occasionally get +2. Not super often though. No, I'm gonna play just like one of all of our cards that we have 2 of, so we can get a little experience with each, see how they play out. Don't expect the vampire tribal to work super well, but maybe it'll happen. I want to at least see how well it is before I cut all of the vampires. Because you never know. There are 1/1 human tokens in this format. There's some 2/1s. Alright. So we are doing some random flipping between day and night, and not because of werewolves, but because of our Sunny Boros human aggro cards. So just gonna go with Sunny Side Up for the name of this deck. And I'll definitely keep this. Our Evolving Wilds will grab our red source, and if we draw a 2-mana creature, that'll be great. We have 6 of them, right? So it's certainly possible. We have 5 2-mana creatures, 1 1-mana creature. Well, Angel Fire Ignition not going to do super hot this game. I am going to go ahead and get rid of that Unruly Mob before it gets any bigger, though. I do have a Burn Down the House here that I could play on turn 5 and do the board wipe thing, but I'd like to survive until then. So we're going to clear out some of their smaller creatures. Uh-oh. Blood Thief's going to be an issue. And I do also need another red mana, so it's possible I don't even hit the mana for it. I could Ambusher here as just a 2/2. Don't think that's going to pan out super well. It's just not really going to block. It'll block that 1 damage. I think now I'm kind of all in on, hopefully, like really hopefully, fingers crossed, we hit a mountain next turn. Otherwise I kind of just lose this game because this Blood Thief goes off and I can't kill it. So we need to draw a mountain next turn or we're pretty much out of it. So I suppose just play whatever's weakest here so we can get a chump block off. I guess we will Ambusher this turn. Maybe they even use a removal spell here. Come on, mountain. I believe in you. My fingers are extra crossed. Yeah. Let's see if they have the combat trick. If they don't, this will be excellent. Nice. Very good stuff for us there. They do have the Disturb on the Luminous Phantom to bring it back from the grave as a 1/1 flyer, but now we can just play some bigger creatures than they've got here and hopefully start taking things back. Gavany Dawnguard, what on earth is this? When it flips between night and day, they look at the top 4 cards of their library, choose a creature with mana value 3 or less, put it into their hand, put the rest on bottom, so it keeps drawing creatures from their library. So I would like to borrow time to get rid of that, because I want to keep them off their card draws. That has Ward 1, so this will cost 4 mana, so I can't cast anything else this turn, but still going to be worth it, in my opinion, to just get rid of this before they draw cards off of it. Doesn't give lifelink, does it? Oh my god, Angel Fire Ignition gives a lifelink? That's sick. That's absolutely sick. That can really save us here. So sure, Soul Guide Gryph, we're gonna take some hits. But we can take another hit and still survive, so I think I wait on Angel Fire Ignition till next turn. Ooh, we got Cavalier too, but we don't have enough mana to cast Cavalier and Silversmith. Could cast Cavalier and Angel Fire Ignition in the same turn. I feel like I just want to play a Silversmith here. And we just take 4 in the sky. Six toughness, so they can't kill this here. And we have a blocker for the ground creature. Yeah, just take 4, go to 7. With Ignition, we're incredibly safe. If they ever don't draw a card, they'll flip it to Knight for us with our Tavern Ruffian, and then we really get in. Unfortunately, they do draw a card, and it's a removal card, so extra bad. But now we have the mana to Silversmith plus Ignition, and just gain 1,000,000 life here, and then we'll do it again next turn with Flashback. Yeah, I'm scared enough of them top decking like a +2/+3 that I'll just Ignition this turn. Go up to 13 life here. We could alternatively have just played Cavalier and then wait for Ignition till next turn, but then we died a +3/+3 pump spell. So, play it super safe there. Blood Tithe Collector clearing out the Cavalier, that's fine. We've still got this game in the bag right now. Can we throw this on the other Silversmith, even though we only gain less life that way? I think we do. So that we spread up our power toughnesses, so that both can keep attacking in the future. It's actually kind of a close race. The Blood Tithe Collector was a huge draw for our opponent. They hit lands for a while there, but their last like 3 turns have been very good. Trade for Perforator, but then they die, right? They go to 1 life if they trade for Perforator. Okay, so they go for the chump block, down to 5. They have to chump block both of these if they didn't draw the win right now, or a removal spell right now. Alright, looks like that might be the case. Yep. Alright, one final draw step for our opponent then. Alright, and that'll be game. That was closer than I thought it was going to be. We played that Wrath, got them down to 2 cards in hand, and they had just like a 1/1 flyer on board from Disturb. They had a lot of follow-ups after that. So 1-0 to start it off, but definitely closer than it needed to be there. Probably could have sequenced things a little better. Played it a bit safer. Definite keep here. Multiple 2-drops to play. One of them which is a vampire to go with our Ambusher. So that would be excellent on turn 3 this game. Ambusher was very bad in the first round. So we'll keep that in mind. Voldaren Stinger. Hey, I've got one of those. We might just shoot that with our Play with Fire. Probably not, because Ambusher kills it even if it's the only vampire on the board with its 1 damage. So we'll plan on Ambusher getting rid of that. And I'm super glad I did, because Vampire Socialite, much bigger deal here. This keeps putting +1/+1 counters on their vampires, as when this enters the battlefield or when their vampires enter the battlefield, basically. So, as you can see, it turned that Stinger into a 2/2 here, which is going to be an issue. But it would have kept the rest of their vampires coming in, getting bigger and bigger. Alright, tap out for 4 damage to me. I am into that play because that means we know that they're tapped out, and the ambusher is going to put in some good work here clearing out the stinger. Feeling quite good about our position right now. Fourth mana from our opponent with their red-black vampire deck. And they cast a 4/3 Famished Foragers. They can use this to filter their cards. 3 mana to discard 1 to draw another one. So they can try to draw out of any flood, which can be good. I think we just make the most of our mana here, play a big old Cathars, because otherwise we're playing multiple 2-power creatures and the Grove isn't flying, so we're just getting walled off by the Foragers. So we'll play a 3/3 here we can start attacking with. And if we hit another mana, we can clear that Foragers out of the way and just attack with the whole board. Although it's quite likely they'll play another creature this turn, we'll see. Maybe they're just foraging. No, past turn, I guess they're just foraging, probably holding up the 3 mana to discard a card, draw a card. So let's go ahead and try to clear that out of the way so we can just attack with everybody here. See what happens. Alright, no response, so they have some kind of instant in their hand other than just discarding a card, drawing a card. So we'll see what they saved their mana for here. A Moonrager Slash, 3 damage to any target. Alright, clear out our 3/3. Well, we still put them down to 9 life and 5 power on the board, pretty good. No more removal though, which could be an issue. Luckily, Hungry for More is strictly an aggressive card here. It's not going to block at all. Does give them a life-linking 3/1s though, so they're going to have quite a bit of life to play around with. So that is going to stem the bleeding quite well. Alright, if they don't have like a board wipe, we're pretty set here. They can Hungry for More again, gain 3 more life, but they'll be at 9. Alright, a 3/4 blocker it is, burn down the house. Alright, let's get some devil tokens then, and they're still very, very dead. Well, that's 2 games down. 2 games where we got to cast Burn Down the House. That being said, I'm not good at the quick maths, but I'm pretty sure we had lethal without casting Burn Down the House in the last game. So heading into round 3, undefeated, always a good place to be. We are on the play here. Would love to draw a 2-mana creature, but if we don't, we can still start out slamming in on turn 3 with Sunrise Cavalier. And Cathartic Pyre is a great removal spell to have backup. Seems like a very solid hand. Our opponent is on blue, and we draw a 4-mana creature. Not what I'm looking for here, but gives us some more cards to play later. So I am fine with it. Bait Hook Angler is the play. 2/1 that can come back as a 1/2 flyer, so I don't really want to remove that. Let's get our Sunrise Cavalry trampling in right now. Get the aggressive game started. And a Celestious Sanctifier from our opponent. A 3/2. They get to mill some cards every time it flips between day and night. Look at the top 2, put whichever ones they want in the graveyard. So we could Angel Fire Ignition here. I think I'd rather put some more creatures on this board. I guess I'm not attacking in if I don't. I could Cathartic Pyre instead. Just clear out the Sanctifier. Do we want to just clear out the creature and hit for 3 right now, or do we want to put more power on this board to hit for more later? Or do we want to make our Cavalier a 5/5 and really get in? I think I just want to put more creatures on the board right now, because I'd like to save Pyre if they play something scarier than that 3/2. I also don't really want to Ignition just immediately here, because we could play it on a bigger creature and get a really, really big attack in. So our Infiltrator will be a 4/4 if it goes to nighttime, which is nice. Shipwreck Sifters from our opponent. They draw a card and discard a card. If they discard a Spirit or Disturb card, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So it's a 2/3. Pretty nice. So we have 5 mana here. We have enough to cast Pyre and Ignition, if I so choose. Otherwise, we can just play like a Tavern Ruffian here and still be setting up for night. I'm just going to keep setting up here. This might be wrong. We'd have a pretty good attack if we shoot down one of these and then Ignition one of these. But not excellent. Alright, Archive Haunt coming out. Seems fine. Every time that attacks, they draw a card, discard a card. Pretty good. It's also flying. If anything in the grave, just an Evolving Wild, so Bereaved Survivor, not exciting here. Kind of interested in passing the turn and just going to night, making our board real big. So now we have 2 4/4s with Trample and a 6/5. So now next turn we definitely have the big attack. And we can still Cathartic Pyre here. So it's not like we're casting nothing. And I think I'm just going to let Archive Haunt do its thing. They can draw a discard with it as much as they want. I'll just clear a creature out of the way with Cathartic Pyre. So Luminous Phantom is getting played. They might be flipping back to day here if they cast another spell. That would be sad for us. Yep, double spell. So they will be flipping back to day here. Not good for our werewolves, but it's fine for our Cavalier at least. So if we want to kill something with Cathartic Pyre here, what do we want to kill? Because I should do it before Bereaved Survivor's on the board so that the Survivor doesn't flip. Kind of want to flip their best blocker, but Archive Haunt is also just their best attacker by a lot. But we have Angel Fire Ignition, so we're gaining a lot of life this game, so I'm not super worried about their crackbacks. Maybe I'm not even casting Pyre. Really unsure. I'm gonna do it. Shoot the Sanctifier, I think, because they do have a lot of Disturb stuff, so that ability is actually working well for them. Alright, so they get in with the Archive Haunt. And it goes back to day now. We're going to put a counter on our Harvesttide Infiltrator next turn, because I want to keep our power and toughnesses as equal as possible, keep it spread around. Don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. 6 mana here, we can Survivor and Ignition. But again, I don't love Ignition when it's not nighttime. But against a deck with Flashback and Disturb, they're very likely to be able to keep things at daytime. Just cast all our spells here. It's an annoyingly cluttered board from our opponent for sure. A bunch of creatures that just keep coming back. Not forever, but they all come back like once. At least these are the flip side, so if they die this time, they're gone forever. Sigarda's Splendor is the play. Well, now we're definitely beaten down. Because if we don't hit them, they're drawing cards. Could double Ignition, but don't know how good that is. If the counters are going to make our creatures big enough to keep bashing in even when they're not indestructible, then it might be worth casting 2 Ignitions here. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 7 power on their board here. Yeah, they're not going to be big enough to attack when they're not indestructible. I'm going to go for it here. I think we just put them on the tramplers. And send in here. Block with the angler so they can recast it from the grave. And flip the survivor. But they are down to 7 now. They do gain a life from the Luminous Phantom. If you have any Silversmith, that's horrendous for me. Add to the power and toughnesses and really clutter up the board again. It's just like an aggro deck's nightmare here is when your opponent just clutters the board like this. A bunch of recurring creatures. Well, if this game continues too much longer, like our opponent has Sigarda's Splendor, drawing them extra cards every turn that we don't hit them. They also have a lot of recurring value from Disturb and Flashback cards. So if this game goes longer, like we lose the long game here pretty much every time. So I think this is a game where like we just shut our brain off and just math this for blockers and start all attacking here. Because that's the only way we're getting out of this one. Otherwise they just win. They just... Or I guess that happens. I mean, we have 12 trampling power there. Did they just not have removal the whole time? 12 trampling power, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They have 12 toughness, so they block there and there, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They go to 2 and kill both of these. I don't think that was completely over there. They go to 2, but they kill both these. Bereaved Survivor would flip for us. And then they would still have a 3-2 and a 2-2 untapped, a 3-2 and a 2-2 untapped. Their 2-2 could trade there, their 3-2 could trade there. They go to 1 from this ability. They just need to play 1 blocker to block Ruffian. And they'd be alive. Alright, well, I guess both myself and my opponent were not having fun in that game. I was just scared of how cluttered their board was. I thought it was going to be really annoying with big triple, quadruple blocks, and they were just scared of the 12 power trample. We just both wanted out of there, and I guess our opponent's the first one to pull the trigger on it. I'll take it. 3-0 to start off. Alright, this is a great hand. We have our curve of a 2-mana creature into an Angel Fire Ignition. We also have our burn down the house later on that can either press our aggressive advantage with devil tokens, or if our opponent somehow gets out ahead of us, we can just burn their house down. We do need to hit some lands though, that is the only issue with the hand, but it's definitely not worth a mulligan. Alright, here we go. I am just going to keep playing creatures before I do the ignition. But, would be an option. red, black, and white from our opponent here. We'll see what they're playing. A Brimstone Vandal, a 2/3 Menace. So unless we put a different power or toughness on the board, then that will block our 2/2 without dying. Could exile it with a Borrowed Time. Could cast a Bereaved Survivor and attack with Infiltrator, take the trade, and let this flip into Avenger. We could Angel Fire Ignition and just attack with whatever gets the counters. Lots of options. I think I want to just slam in aggressively here, so it's between Borrowed Time and Angel Fire Ignition for me. Let's do the Ignition here, and we'll do it on the Witch and attack both. If they take the trade with Vandal here, we're keeping the board clear. And if they don't take the trade, then, I mean, we're just dealing 7, so that's insane to me that they wouldn't take the trade. Alright, so they do take the trade, take 4. Four mana from our opponent now. They're down to 14, and we have a 4/4 on the board. There's their own Harvest-Tide Infiltrator. Does not block the Witch well, so we get to attack in freely here. So we're probably attacking in and then just casting another creature like Bereaved Survivor. Don't see a reason to exile that Infiltrator. So hit for 4, they're down to 10. Cast our Bereaved Survivor. 2 powers enough to trade into the Infiltrator. We could play the Flame Channeler instead, because then when we cast Cathartic Pyre, this is a 3/3. Is it more likely that we cast Cathartic Pyre to turn this into a 3/3 than that a creature dies to turn this into a 3/2? Kind of, but this is such a good backup plan if our Witch dies, because then if our Witch dies, this is a 3/2 that brings back the Witch from the grave. So I think I still would rather play Bereaved Survivor, but it's really close, because there is the potential for this to become the embodiment of Flame next turn if we're casting Cathartic Pyre. But I just love the assurance that this gives us of where, now if they just use like a, I forget what it's called, but they throw the Candlegrove Witch out of a window, the 3 mana black instant removal spell, then that's totally fine, because we'll bring her right back. Bold Darren, Ambusher, deal 1 damage, kill Bereaved Survivor. Well, that was the exact card that would make that play super bad. That does just the 1 damage there. And then do they also have the removal here? No. The fact that they keep like looking at their cards and our cards makes me think they might have the removal spell where they have to sacrifice a creature to exile a creature, or for 5 mana they can exile the creature. So that's possible. So could have Angel Fire Ignitioned there, but it would get 2 more damage in this turn. We'd gain a bunch of life, sure, but I'm not worried about our life total. We get 2 more damage and put them to 4, but I'm pretty sure here they have the 5 mana exile a creature, and then all our eggs would be in one basket. With that being a 6/6, I'd like to save the Angel Fire Ignition for later and cast Flame Channeler here. Since the Ignition just wasn't lethal there. If it was lethal, absolutely, we just cast it, but just puts them to 4 if we cast that there. They're looking all over the board. Maybe they're just reading all the effects. That's fair. The format is brand new, so maybe they don't have the exile target creature. That would be cool if they did not. Gavany, Silversmith. Alright. Just some counters on their stuff to set up some good blocks. Sure. Oh, still attacking. Alright. I will go to 17. Happily. If we hit a red source for burn down the house, we just have lethal, because the Candlegrove Witch will get flying from Coven. So that'll hit for 4 in the sky, and the devil tokens, if they get blocked, they'll die and deal a damage, and if they don't get blocked, they just deal a damage because they have 1 power. So if we had hit the mountain for burn down the house there, we'd have immediate lethal. Still feeling really good about our position, but I don't know about immediate lethal. So Cathartic Pyre can flip Channeler into being a 3/3, which is still not enough to attack into Silversmith. So do I just exile the Silversmith here and then only attack with the Witch? Could be the thing. I could Angel Fire Ignition the Channeler here, then they're both 4/4s. They could double block there. Then I only kill one of the two. I don't love that. I really don't like losing a creature right now, but I guess we have Burn Down the House to just guarantee we kill them when we hit a red source. So it's probably okay to just Ignition the Channeler. I think I'm going to attack with just Witch here, and if they double block, I'll go for Pyre, and we're living the dream. Let's see. All right, yep, living the dream here. Yeah, that works out definitely better than casting the Borrowed Time would, and now we still have the Borrowed Time as a backup if they play a better blocker. Three cards in hand here. Eaten Alive on the Embodiment of Flame. So they do have it, but they might have just drawn it. That's the one I was talking about, that Exiles, but they could sacrifice to cast it for cheap. Alright, Burn Down the House is not lethal anymore, is it? Right, they block there, take 3? Yeah, it's not. So, Angel Fire Ignition isn't lethal either. That's 6, it just forces them to a bad block. Would I rather force them to a bad block than play a creature and exile their thing? I think I'd rather play a creature and exile their thing because we have Burn Down the House and stuff. Let's just widen this board here. Make the Burn Down the House mega lethal next turn. I guess it is still mega lethal even if we just Angel Fire Ignition this turn. Either way, we're sitting pretty this game. There are 2, just hit another land here, kind of flooded out for our opponent. Arrogant Outlaw, just a 3/2 to block with, they're dead on board. Alright, seems good. Send in. They do have the Midnight Ambush to stop the ignition. Alright, well, they live another turn then. Burn Down the House would have still got them though. So, we gave them another turn. Incorrect line to take, but just another land from our opponent. Really flooded out here. And they scoop them up. So I believe that is 4-0 for the aggressive red-white deck here. Certainly is. All right, well, pretty happy with how things have gone then. Our worst case scenario is a 4-3, which is pretty much a break even. 1,400 gems does cost 1,500 to play, but you're getting all the cards to keep for your collection as well as the rewards packs. So let's see here. See who we're up against in round 5. Take a little drink between rounds here. Alright, very keepable opener here. We have a 2-mana creature, a 3-mana creature, and a 4-mana creature, as well as a removal spell, our Play with Fire, to deal 2 damage to a card for only 1 mana. Now we've got an excellent 3-mana creature to play. Really liking the start of this game. Changes our curve quite a bit. Have not been a fan of this Bereaved Survivor. It just has not played out super well. Definitely seems like one of the cards mainly for the white-black sacrifice deck. But even there, I'm not so sure about it. Shipwreck Sifters. If they discard a Disturb card or a Spirit here, then it will be big enough to block Perforator, so I hope they don't. Fingers crossed. That is a Spirit, so a 2-3 it is, but Angel Fire Ignition could make this Perforator big enough to attack in a bit. For now, I'm playing our nice Trample Haster here. Getting in for 3 damage this turn. And a Locked in the Cemetery to keep that tapped down. Sad day for the Sunrise Cavalier. But we've got a backup, so we're okay. And now if it ever switches to nighttime, we're getting 2 +1/+1 counters, because the Locked in the Cemetery does not stop the ability of the Cavalier from putting +1/+1 counters on our cards. So that seems great. Candlegrove Witch, we would have 2 separate powers out, so it would not have Coven yet, but as soon as we cast Angel Fire Ignition, it would. Do I want to just cast Angel Fire Ignition this turn? Kind of interested in it. We ignite the Perforator, make it a 4-3 so it can attack in decently. A 4-3 doesn't attack in well against their 3-2 when it doesn't have Indestructible. So I feel like I want to ignite the Cavalier, because then it's going to attack in well any turn. You know, a 5-5, they'd have to double block and we'd kill both their creatures. So, yeah, I like Ignition here. Or just casting nothing, going to nighttime, getting some counters might not be terrible. But I'm going to go for Ignition. They're down to 9. Organ Hoarder, a 3-2, getting them some more power on the board, carding things up with some good blockers. They have milled a Disturb card as well with the Organ Hoarder, so they've drawn a card with it and drawn a Disturb card to their grave, so really good deal for them there. That being said, we can just ignite our Cavalier and get in really well. 7-7 trample first strike, indestructible. So they probably just don't block, go to 2 life, in which case burn down the house will be really lethal as soon as we hit 1 more land. I like that plan. Alright, and any blocks they make I'm perfectly fine with, because we are still trampling in for quite a bit. And of course have a 7-7 trampler left behind if they don't draw the removal for the Cavalier here. Alright, Devoted Graphkeeper. If they have an instant speed card to cast, they do get to tap something when they cast things from their grave. But at 5 life, burn down the house, should get all the way there here with our Devil tokens. Flip the switch to counter it. I think they're just dead to Cavalier, right? They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 power, so they can trade into it, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toughness. I guess they're not quite dead. Actually, no, they are. They are, because they take 2 trample plus 2 from Perforator. So that'll close this one out. Some great work from the Angel Fire Ignition, as always in that game, heading into 5 wins. Completely undefeated thus far. Which is kind of absurd. This is the best I've done in an Innistrad draft so far. Turns out that turning creatures sideways is good in any limited format. If you have the powerful creatures and powerful bombs to coincide with your strategy. And we certainly do here. Been doing a lot of 4-3s. 4-3s and 1-3s, mainly. That's how I've been doing in this format so far. So 5-0. Whatever happens here, it'll be the best draft I've had of the format thus far, even at 5-3. And we're in the money. 1,600 gems being our reward now. Always happy to see that. So round 6. Fight. Another excellent hand. We're burning down the house for sure. We got a Flame Channeler to start things with a Cathartic Pyre to flip it into the Embodiment of Flame. Let it be a 3/3. Could play the Candlegrove Witch instead, but it'll be a little while till we have Coven. We could definitely cast Cathartic Pyre sooner than then, so we'll play the Channeler first. Our opponent's on white and black, and they play a Flesh Taker. Pretty important to kill, but we can get really aggressive here by just slamming in. It's important enough to kill that I'm fine with a trade with our 2/2 here, and if they don't take the trade, they're taking 5. So this puts a lot of pressure on our opponent, and it does let us get that Flesh Taker off with the trade for the 2/2. Would be more ideal if they didn't take the trade there, but the fact that they did is fine with us. Again, because of how important of a card Flesh Taker is. And we've got Play with Fire, the cheap removal to get that out of the way and keep things aggressive here, and our opponent is still on 2 mana on turn 3 there. Turn 4, do they hit the land? No, they kept a 2-lander because they have multiple Flesh Takers and stuff. Alright, well that's a thing. We can Angel Fire Ignition the Candlegrove Witch, and they can't even trade on blocks here. Seems good. We could also just Pyre the Flesh Taker out of the way. I think I'd rather Ignition here. If we drew a land here, I'd love to Witch Pyre, but we did not, so I think Ignition it is. They have no good blocks. They take 7 down to 7 life. And unfortunately still stuck on mana there. Really unfortunate time for our opponent. They had both of their colors, white and black. They had 2 Flesh Takers. Certainly a hand that I would have kept and gotten punished for as well. So, unfortunate draws from our opponent there. But that will give us another victory and head us into 6-0. Still undefeated, heading into the potential final boss here with this aggressive strategy. Sunny side up. I guess the name really works for this deck because technically we do have those Cavaliers and stuff to be able to flip between day and night, but the vast majority of the time it has just been daytime throughout all these games. We've just played Cavaliers and it's like, oh look, it's daytime, and then just aggressively slapped our opponent with 3/3 tramples, not really setting up any day and night flipping. Just want the world to know that it's daytime. So Pestilent Wolf to start things from our green-red opponent. We'll start things with our Sunrise Cavalier, as we tend to do. Look at that, it's daytime. However, this game, incredibly likely to flip between day and night a decent amount because our opponent on green-red, likely to be playing werewolves, likely to be wanting it to go to nighttime. So they will probably choose not to cast spells at some point in this game to make sure that it's night so that their werewolves will be better. And I suppose they'll do it right now. With Moonrager's Slash to clear out the Cavalier. That they can cast for only 1 mana at nighttime. A really sick combo. That's going to shut off our Silversmith here. So we'll play the Infiltrator instead. But luckily for us, it is nighttime thanks to our opponent. So that'll be a 4/4 for 3. Main phase 2 here. They pass through the turn again. Maybe they just didn't have cards. They want to block with Death Touch here. Do we Borrowed Time that? I kind of want to keep Borrowed Time for their scarier werewolves later. But we are the aggressive deck where we would like to get in with that damage. They have 5 cards left in hand. I think I'm supposed to hold on to Borrowed Time here. We'll let this trade happen and just hit them for 3. Oh yeah, I am glad I have a Borrowed Time here, but they're probably playing more big scary cards after this. But we certainly need to get the 8/7 Ward 3 off the board, which is going to require all our mana this turn. But that is a monstrous threat. Burn down the house. For a few devil tokens, we've got one of those. They choose to just get in there. That's interesting to me. I'd expect to just leave a couple back because 2 of them will trade into the silversmith, but I'll take that too. Moonrager Slash, sure. Just have a bunch of Moonrager Slashes in hand, I suppose. Well, we're winning the race. We're both doing 3 damage to each other every turn right now. But the devil tokens are certainly a better board state because of their ability to throw that 1 damage when they die wherever they want. I think I would still like to trade, right? They'll still get the damage in, but then the devil's gone for later. We could crack back for 4 if they don't play another creature here, but I expect they're going to have something that can block at least a 1/1, so take the trade here. We do still take the damage, but we do get that out of the way. And there you go. Tovolar, that's going to come in as a 4/4. Draw cards whenever their wolves deal damage and they can buff it. So that is certainly more than enough to block our 1/1. So we are going to have to deal with that. Could try to scry one here. But then if I draw like our 3 damage burn spell, we can't stack both up on Tovolar. I think we hold on to play with fire. That is certainly not what we're looking for here. Could 2-for-1 ourselves to kill Tovolar, because if we don't... Oh, we actually just die, I think. They can target itself with its ability to give it +X+0 trample here. Ooh, no. I'm trying to play just a land for turn. Oh. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6 mana. They can give +4/+0. They hit for 8, 9, 10. We survive with 2 life. You know what? We're quite likely to lose this game, so I'm just going to play to our outs here. I think our best chance to win, honestly, is that they tap out to deal a bunch of damage to us with Tovolar, put us to 2 life, and then we crack back for 3 + 2 damage with Play with Fire. Like, our best opportunity to win here is that they misplay hard. They did leave the devil token back, so that's already that's a big nick in our plan. Plus they spend 0 mana for the pump, so probably not getting there that way, but I think that's the only way we'd really get there here. Do I play with fire right now? I feel like I don't, because whatever I draw, I'm going to have enough mana to cast Play with Fire and that. Even if I draw Angel Fire Ignition, that'll cost 7 mana to cast in flashback. We have the 7 plus the 8th. So I think we just wait. Although if I play with fire right now, I get to scry and make it more likely we hit something like Angel Fire Ignition, put them to 3. We could also clear the token out of the way, but then we just hit for 3, put them down to 2. Target them with Play with Fire here. Darren Stinger, not going to do it. Wouldn't do it even if we held on to Play with Fire, so throw that on bottom and see the draw. Just a land. Angel Fire Ignition would have got there, but we are dead on board to Tovolar's ability to get trample. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, +6 plus trample. Very, very lethal. That's 6 there over our 4 toughness plus 2 more, so 8 damage here. Go to -1. Closer than I thought it'd be at the end there. We got them down to 3. So we put in some work, but just not quite enough to finish off the final boss. Interesting. Do they have burn in hand here? If they don't have burn in hand, they gave us another opportunity to top deck something. They're probably saving up the mana for Moonrager Slash, I'm guessing. That's what that 3 mana is. No, to untap it with Howl of the Hunt? Alright, well. Opponent almost potentially gave us the win there. But not quite. Not quite. They gave us that hope in the end. But defeat it is. Little does the final boss know. We have 2 more opportunities. 6-1 here. 2 more chances to get that 7th win. We've used our astronaut figurine. We've used our 1-up. We've used our guppy's head. Or guppy's tail. I don't remember what it is in Binding of Isaac that gives you an additional life. Heading right back into the final boss battle. Alright, we're on the play. Turn 3 Cavalier, turn 2 Channeler. We're curving out. Channeler, Cavalier, Silversmith. Seems excellent. Our opponent has mulliganed here, down to 6. Are we on the play? We're on the play too. That is incredible. Being on the play, of course, meaning you're getting your cards on the board faster, more aggressive starts that way, so excellent for aggressive decks like this. So the Flame Channeler is on the board. Our 2/2 that can flip into a 3/3 when we deal damage with a spell. Our opponent is on red-white as well, so the mirror match here. Would be surprised to see them not have a 2-drop. It could just be an unlucky draw from them. They did not have a 2-drop here, so Cavalier it is. They probably have like 2 mana, deal 3 damage here or something. And they shoot the Cavalier down. We'll see. Ooh, the flash 3/1, very nice. Trade with the Cavalier, but we still trample over for some damage, so a good deal. Good deal from the Cavalier, still got some work done. And there's their own Sunrise Cavalier, sure. Well, we do need that 3rd mana. Or that 4th mana to get these Silversmiths out to keep things going. If we did hit it here, we'd be in a great spot, but now we ambush for 1, doesn't really do anything, but we just play another 2/2 on the board. We could play with fire to turn this into a 3/3. Plus scry with play with fire. Yeah, and then we trade up into the Cavalier, I guess. Just pass turn, I suppose. Oh my god, I totally forgot about the day-night cycle. Sometimes easy to forget, but really important to remember in this format. One of the things that does make it kind of a complex format here. A little misplay like that, like choosing not to play something, can cost a lot. Like now we can't actually beat the Cavalier with the Channeler unless we 2-for-1 ourselves. So we can 2-for-1 ourselves for the trade. And I think we have to go for it here because now we're just on the defensive. Since we didn't get to curve out as I had hoped. They have the combat trick here that kind of just solidifies us dead. Moonrager Slash works too. So we 2-for-1 ourselves to take out a Moonrager Slash instead of taking out a Sunrise Cavalier. Now they have 6 power toughness on the board here. Plus they cast 2 spells in the turn, which means they flip back and get a counter on the Candlegrove Witch here. And we are still on 3. So just play a 2/2, I guess. Well, that's looking like this one in the bag. We are really in the mirror match here. They've got the Tavern Ruffian, the Candlegrove Witch, the Cavalier. They have Coven with the Witch to hit us for 3 in the sky no matter what happens here, but we could play a 2/5 on the ground to block their 4/4. So we're dead in 2 turns, but I think Ruffian's probably the best play. Either we have a 2/5 or we have a 3/4 and a 3/3. 3/4 and a 3/3 blocks a bit worse, I think. We go Tavern Ruffian here. Sun Gold Barrage, well. So they destroy whichever creature we play with that. 4 toughness or greater, so even the Silversmith would have been 4 toughness, so. That will do it. Dead on board. We can block that and take 7, or we can block that, trample over for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 damage either way we block. Heading into round 3 of the final boss. Would be a bummer to go from 6-0 to 6-3, but still a super solid record overall. So round 3 is the charm, the final boss. Opponents on the play this time, but Candlegrove Witches, Play with Fire, Borrowed Time. Seems like an excellent start to a game. Our opponent is on blue. We even have the Flame Channeler to flip with our Play with Fire. And Secrets of the Key will start things from our opponent. They get to get a clue, and then they get to get 2 clues when they flash it back. So a total of 3 cards they get to draw off of that over time. We'll start with our Flame Channeler here. And they are going to draw a card off that first clue. And 3 mana up from our opponent, a Covetous Castaway it is, a 1/3 that disturbs for 5 mana, they bring it back as a 3/4 flyer. Could Borrowed Time to exile it so it never comes back, but I could also just get a more aggressive curve here by playing with fire on their face to flip our Channeler into a 3/3 to kill the Castaway on the block, and also play a Witch this turn so we get more creatures on board. I think I like that. I think I like getting just aggressive here, even if it does mean later in the game they'll get a 3/4 flyer out of that. Plus we get a Scry here. Get rid of a land if we hit one. Another Flame Channeler? That's solid enough here. I'll take it. Again, I don't think that interaction's that bad for our opponent, but they are on mono blue here. We milled more blue cards. I'd be surprised if they're completely mono blue. Gonna assume they're getting a bit mana screwed here. We'll just curve out all our creatures, get as aggressive as we can, hold up the Borrowed Time to get rid of their next blocker, and hopefully the early aggro start is enough here. They did not hit a land to play turn 4. They do have Flip the Switch. They get a Decayed Zombie and counter our spell. The Decayed Zombie doesn't get to block or anything, so it doesn't really do much here, unless they have like a Vivisection to sacrifice it to draw 3. And they do hit the Black Source here, so they are on both colors. 4 mana here on turn 5, so they're not that hosed. But we can Borrow Time on the Organ Hoarder to get in for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. Put them down to 6. Just stay as aggressive as possible. And I think that will be the play. Although I could play Harvest-Tide Infiltrator and Stinger instead, so we can just replace whatever they trade off with a Trampler. Yeah, I'd rather replace whatever they trade with a Trampler than use a removal spell on the 3/2. Because now we're just using one of these to trade into the 3/2. Because we have a replacement for it here by casting 2 creatures. So we're trading our 3/3, replacing that with a 3/2 Trample. And holding on to the Borrowed Time for a potential lethal attack next turn. Like if they just play a land and play the 3/4 flyer here, then we win. Actually not quite. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're 1 damage off from lethal if they play 1 creature and we Borrowed Time it. But here they are, 5 mana turn 6, doing pretty well here. There's Leer, we're definitely getting rid of that. That gives everything in their grave flashback. So, incredibly good card there. We're gonna have to remove that. And any creature they played we would remove there. So, they are down to 1 now. See what they've got. Infernal Grasp, destroy a creature, lose 2 life. They're gonna end things on their own terms. 7-2 will be the final record for the Boros aggro deck here. The red-white aggressive strategy. So, really solid run here for the first recording. The first recorded Premier Draft. Of course, again, as I said before, I have played several practice drafts over on the Twitch channel in the link description if you're interested in seeing those. I think I've played 6 or 7 drafts over there, and they do save those recordings over time. So, yeah, pretty fun deck here, pretty solid stuff. Always nice to get a 7-win run, especially to start off the format. So, as always, thank you all for watching, but that is going to the end of the video for me today. If you want to see more Magic Arena, more Innistrad Midnight Hunt Limited, just stick around on the YouTube channel. I'll be doing more of these daily for quite a while, and you can check out the Twitch channel in the description below where I do a lot of practice drafts. So, as always, once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.